Hey everybody, it's your girl Bunny. To all of my returning subscribers, hey, how you doing? And for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Kick your feet up, subscribe to this family-friendly channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss any posts. Also follow me on Instagram at the same profile name so you don't miss the sneak peeks of what's coming up next. In this video, it's season 2, episode 1, Little Ghetto Boys. I give a full episode recap with photos offset to the side, and then I give my review at the end. No need to dig around. I have all of the minute marks in the comments. It's all coming up next. We start off season 2 in Steubenville, Ohio, and Bobby observes that the current DJ at a party is not all that. And he jokes to Mecca, his girlfriend, that in New York, it would be completely different. She tells him all the time that you're always talking about New York this and New York that, and how you could be better DJing, whatever. As they're chilling and having fun, she warns Bobby that, hey, look, my ex has arrived, and it's automatically static in the air. Bobby confronts the guy because he notices that he's packing a weapon, and not only that, he's territorial of his ex-girlfriend as well. When things are about to pop off and Bobby appears to be outnumbered, we have Dennis and Wise who have his back. Everybody starts to leave the party and Bobby says it's party over, and Hassan and a chick come out the bathroom disappointed that they've missed all of the fun. There's small talk between Mecca and Bobby in the car on the way home, and she tells him that she never would have thought anybody would have stepped to her ex-boyfriend Shank, and she's happy that he did. But other than that, she's heard a copy of a few of his songs and wants to know why he doesn't make music anymore. But Bobby is fine with just having her in his life and running things. As he kisses her goodnight, that's interrupted by Shank and his crew reminding Bobby that it's his town. We don't know what happens in the scene, but it cuts to the next one of Bobby going to the basement, quickly looking for money stashes, and he's in a hurry to leave. His mother sees the urgency, and in fear she asks, "What did you do this time?" The next morning, Bobby is updated by Jerome that the, quote, victim is still alive, but the suspect is still at large. Jerome is upset that there's a similar situation that he did to Attila in New York. And when Attila went to jail, he didn't snitch and say anything. But this current situation with this guy Shank, him going directly to the cops is going to be a problem. And they're not going to stop looking until it comes back to you. Bobby explains yeah, that's why I gotta leave town. But his mother says that he can't keep running and doing the same things over and over again. He's got to turn himself in and explain his side of the story. Jerome says that he's a musician and he needs to pull guitar strings and not triggers. Sheree wakes up to a sad room and knows that something is up with Bobby again. Bobby turns himself in and it's a harsh reality check. Sheree and Dennis watch some TV, and Dennis is uneasy about Bobby being in jail. How there's not a code there, and then he can't believe that he snitched, and everybody's walking around like everything's okay. All he can think about is getting bail money. But Sheree reminds him that you got different priorities now. You're about to be a dad, and you need to think about that. Linda tells them that, hey, there's a lawyer on the way, and in the meantime, we need to make sure we tidy up this house. Dennis and Wise look at some guns, and to get some serious ammo, it requires a state ID. But since they don't have a valid ID, they purchase another weapon. After they leave, the store owner and an employee joke about how clearly they're not hunters. They're glad to take their money, and besides, let them kill each other. It's less coons that way, and they're fine with that. Linda and Sheree tidy up the place before lawyer Mr. Dominic Olivito arrives. He compliments our home but gets straight to the discussion at hand. He said he took the time to look at Bobby's file and it's repetitive, and him representing the same clients that keep doing the same old over and over again doesn't look good on his behalf, and he's starting not to good look to his lawyer peers. But Sheree sees right through the BS and reminds him that all of that money sits nicely in his bank account. Linda tells him that Bobby is a good person with a good soul. So Dominic says that he can tell a lot about a person by their room. She invites him to see Bobby's room, and he notices the records. The Prince Hakeem record from the short-lived deal, and more specifically, a Kenny Loggins album. Dominic says that he's seen enough, but doesn't say if he'll represent Bobby. Dennis has a new setup that he's paying a resident rent to set up and sell product directly from the home. Asan arrives bringing the chips that contain the product from You God. The product is coming directly from Livia. Asan heads back to New York and Shank is back on his feet. His crew updates him that the product is moving slow and the fiends are going to the New York cellars, even with Bobby locked up. On top of that, Dennis has this house set up where the fiends can get high. Bobby gets a visit from Dominique, and he explains that he hasn't taken the case yet and lets him know that his mother is proud of his gift with music. Bobby says that he shot somebody else, but it was all in self-defense. And more people in his hood carry guns than IDs. Dominic has to know why Bobby owns a Kenny Loggins album. And he responds by saying because he's a great American songwriter. Dominic leaves again, not telling him if he'll take the case, but tells Bobby that his true battle will be in the courtroom. Bobby is in deep thought, thinking about Jerome's words that musicians should pull guitar strings and not triggers. Bobby also notices that there's a caterpillar. And how'd he get in? But the cellmate says getting in is easy. It's getting out that's a problem. 1 month passes and Bobby notices that caterpillar has now developed a cocoon. Wise tells Dennis that he's always talking about New York this and New York that. And how he always talking about Staten Island, but he heard how Staten Island is not even a part of New York. It's really a part of New Jersey. And at least Steubenville has Dean Martin. There's constant knocking at the door, and Dennis tells Marsha to open the door and tell those fiends that the services are closed. They are done for the night. Dennis just wants to finish prepping Bobby's bail money, putting it in his backpack to take to his mom. At the door, unfortunately, is Shank and his crew. They're there to even the score. There's fighting, several shots back and forth, which lead to an ending struggle between a gunman and Dennis. Dennis is looking at the pistol directly in his face, trying to push the gun away. There's even more struggle, and the scene ends with us hearing a single shot. Bobby hears at the lights out that his friend D. Lover got hit. There's no details if he's okay. He didn't want to give him bad news, but wanted to let him know that his boy has been hit. Sheree and her mom head to the hospital to see Dennis, but they can't give out any information. Also, all gunshot victims are reported to the police. In the midst of trying to get information, Sheree goes into labor. When Dennis wakes up, Sheree has already given birth. Gladly, Wise was able to get the backpack to Bobby's mom and post the bail, but the police want to talk to Dennis. Sheree wants to name the baby Dennis Jr., but he doesn't want his son to have that name. Jerome goes to see Bobby, and he does express his disappointment in Bobby being in jail. He explains that growing up they had gambling and petty crimes here and there, but nothing compares to this crack takeover. Fortunately, he has good news. Dennis is okay, his nephew is healthy, and they didn't tell Divine what happened because he's close to getting out of the halfway house. And they have his bail money. Bobby, on the other hand, says that he heard differently. He heard that his friend was shot hustling, trying to get his bail money. Jerome used his house as collateral for a lawyer, and he feels that they should use that money for bail to apply it to something that's going to help the family. He tells him to just take that money you were going to use for bail and use it for the family and not him. But Jerome tells him that's what we are. We are helping family. We're using that money to get you out. But Bobby leaves and he's not hearing it. Bobby goes back to his cell and notices that the cocoon is empty. The inmates tell him that they caught the butterfly and they're keeping it in a cup. But Bobby gets up and releases the butterfly as if having some new insight on life. Bobby calls for the CO and Bobby is released to see Dominic, who tells him that now they've got to get ready for the real war. Bobby goes to see Dennis and Sheree, and they've decided to name the baby Infinite. When Bobby goes home, Randy insists on sleeping in the same room with Bobby because he learned that people in jail readjust by having someone else in the room, like in a cell. Bobby is thankful for his consideration, but doesn't want him to focus on things like that. They share some quality time and talk about music. Bobby plays Wendy Renee and a track that he loves, but Randy notices that there's no vocals and wants to know, will vocals ever be recorded with it? Bobby tells him he doesn't know and that his transition with music maybe is changing. which leaves Bobby in deep thought. The next morning, even with the conversation the day before, Bobby notices his brother Randy slept at his side. Bobby takes a moment for some self-evaluation and gets clean cut, and it's time for the briefing with Dominic. He tells him that everything you do will be evaluated. His posture, his language, and in court, it's literally Bobby's word against Shanks. The 12 jurors are allegorical, and from the 12 followers of Christ, Bobby should focus on not getting crucified. The prosecution starts off by painting a picture of Bobby coming from New York and bringing all of the badness to this town. When Shank testifies, it's very obvious that he's been prepped to paint a picture against Bobby. He testifies that he's lived in the town his entire life without any trouble. And he even got an injury by taking his high school team to the state championship. And even though he didn't go to college, he lived his life to the best of his ability. That this bad person shot him and he didn't do anything wrong. And at one point, he even thought he was gonna die. There's even some waterworks from his mother in the audience. Now it's time for Bobby to take the stand. But Bobby requests a recess and the judge says no. Dominique takes him to the side and tells him that it's kind of like a performance, a rap battle. Shank went first, now it's your turn. Bobby visualizes his family and life events. The next few scenes are directorial symbolisms of him freestyling, which translate what Bobby testified in court. The audience can get an idea of his self-defense and him trying to better himself. Later on in the day, they get the word that the jury has made their decision. On the count of attempted murder, the jury has decided that Bobby is not guilty. And that is the end of the episode. Now it is time for your favorite part of the video. That's right, my review. Now, for those of you who have not seen Wu-Tang and American Saga Season 1, I got you. Make sure that you check out the link in the pinned comment below so you can binge watch and catch up with us in Season 2 so you won't miss a thing. Now, for this episode 1 for Season 2, I really enjoyed it because we pick up where we left off. And even with the pandemic, with production and everything going on and everything pushed back, that the writing and consistency stayed the same. And the actors and everybody looked the same. So you can tell that everybody took good care of themselves. Everybody stayed focused. Now, there were a few comments and a lot of debates in the comments from Season 1. How a lot of people felt that this is popish and it doesn't look grimy enough and it's not telling the story like a lot of people want the story told. But I'll repeat, just like I said last season, when it comes to the production, when it comes to the clarity, you need that, because if it's too gritty and grimy, you could pull away from the main focus and storyline, which is trying to be communicated. How Wu-Tang collectively pulled together. I don't think people realize how difficult it is for writers to tell the story of several different people at the same time without it being too cheesy and without it being too grimy. There's been several other documentaries about their story, but sometimes you have to tell the story with clarity, because if things are missed, you don't want the people who don't know who Wu-Tang is, never heard about Wu-Tang, to be confused. You want it to be on a level where everybody can understand it. And also, you broaden the range of who can write it when it's not too vulgar. You start to get different age ranges that are interested in becoming more of Wu-Tang fans and understanding everything. You don't want to start from a point to where if you're a Wu-Tang fan that they've skipped over a lot. So keep that in mind. I discussed that a lot in last season. The way that the story is translated is very important because you want the series to have longevity and you want it to be communicated in such a way that all parties that have agreed to the series and have signed off to the series are one and one, right? You want to have that understanding eye to eye. right? So this episode was great, picking up where we left off, seeing how mind frames are changing and shifting. We have Dennis, that's a new dad. We have the cause and effects of this cycle of hustling, getting money, having all of this talent and not doing anything with it, right? And that's something that I really think RZA and also the director, which I found just amazing, your boy Mario Van Peebles, directed this first episode, and he's amazing. But I just loved how the symbolism of Bobby giving his testimony, because you got to think about what you can discuss from court cases. You want to be really, really careful, because you don't want the lead to incriminate themselves, right? We don't want to ruffle up any dust of maybe statutes of limitations and also words and things that could have been misconstrued. So symbolism of what he said, and you can get an idea of him trying to better himself, the pressures of being a black man in America, and at the same time trying to feed your family, and at the same time having this gift and not knowing what to do with it. And if you don't have that open mind to understand why they did it that way, then you really have to get that, because legally you want to be careful. You can state facts, but you don't want to say too much. You want to keep your business. So this evolution can be seen as frustrating from a Wu-Tang fan, because they just like, that ain't how it happened, and this and this and this, and that's corny and all this other stuff. But you got to think, this is theatrical, and it's trying to just get to the point. You don't want to veer off and getting off the focus and communicating with the audience in this series, which is basically how the group evolved and how members became members and how names got to names, and how government names being presented is very important in learning, because we want to start from scratch. It's important to people who don't know who Wu-Tang is, and it's sad to say that some people don't know who that is, but you got to think about all of the people that are young, right? Just like a time capsule. If I open up the time capsule, will I understand what's in it? Don't just tell me, this is one of the greatest rap groups of all time, and that's all you telling me. Tell me why. Understanding the evolution of all of these characters and people, and then getting the crescendo, which we're all excited to see, of Wu-Tang's success has to be a crawl, walk, then run. Let me know what you thought about this season 2 premiere, and don't forget to click the link so we can roll into episode 2. Subscribe to your girl. Follow me on Instagram so you don't miss the sneak peeks of what's coming up next. And also make sure that you check out Queen Sugar, right? It's an own the Discovery Channel correlation, and they've started with the next season. Make sure you check out other links in the pinned comment as well. Join me right now. Click on episode 2 so we can go over that. All right. Take care of yourself. Bye.